Look, I don't mean to bring up traumatic memories, but we do all recall how bad patch 1.1 was, right? Oh, alright, so, patch 1.1, fixing sorcerer, the buffs we need, let's go!
A few moments later.
Honestly, I should have just thinking about it, and in no world back then did I ever think that Sorcerer would be as good, and let's be honest, that's underselling it, as it is/was in Season 2. But, hello my fellow adventurers of Sanctuary, I think it might be time for nerfs.
Move this man!
No, hear me out, okay? Hear me out. Not in that way, not in that 1.1 way, not in that ill-conceived, poorly thought-out, blunt sledgehammer of a swing that did not read the room, completely out of touch with us the players, that unmitigated disaster. But in a way that is healthy and constructive for the game, because we're kind of reaching a tipping breaking point that if things continue as there are, well then the game is only going to exist in two states. State 1, every bit of content is trivial easy for every class and every build, and there is zero challenge or meaning in anything that you do. I think we can agree that that's bad. State 2, what is there is so numerically undoable and brutally punishing to anyone that doesn't have the literal perfect build with the literal perfect gear and have put in hundreds upon hundreds of grinding numbers go higher time, well then you can't do it. And that's kind of Abattoir of Zir Tier 20 or so plus, or even earlier, honestly, to most of us that didn't dedicate our lives to it, because what was the point? There was no real reason to. It's not kind of an achievement to grind your blood glyph to high enough level to eventually break the next tier. It's just sort of how much time have you played. Now don't get me wrong, there is a definitive skill involved in breaking a Abattoir of Zir, but that skill isn't getting as high as you can with your current build and blood glyph. Once you have peaked there, well then you have a good enough build and you are a good enough player, and it is just grind glyph levels until you can get higher and higher and higher. And I applaud everyone that is in the 20s, everyone that has beaten tier 25. It's very cool to see it done, especially when they said it was impossible. But I think, make no mistake, it is definitively the wrong kind of endgame challenge, where it is chiefly a battle of numbers go higher. So with all that context set up then, what's going to happen in Season 3? It's only a couple weeks away and we've got no real definitive details. We don't know how the classes are going to change, or even the seasonal mechanic or anything along those lines, but I am concerned that they are still a little bit too, well, balancing shy to make Season 3 satisfying. Because look, letting us go crazy in Season 2 was the right move. It has made amends for that awful patch, and it has really shown that they're okay with us having fun, even if that fun is a little bit overtuned. I don't think it's a hot, contentious take to say that combo point to 23 rogue, ball lightning sorcerer, hammer of the ancients barbarian is so powerful to the point that it isn't good for the game, because it's not good for the game for you to effortlessly trivialize every bit of content without having to really do any work for it. Just apply the ball lightning to the face of the enemy and you will murder it in seconds without really any other factors going into it. It's not like you had to grind out or achieve some perfect build. Yes, you can min-max it to high heaven, and I have for you guys. I love my sorcerer theory crafting and I will always do it. In fact, it's very heartening to see this incredible tier 25 by Arcuid get completed as a sorcerer, using very similar principles to my last sorcerer anti-abattoir build, playing into shatter and frozen synergy, and it's nice knowing that, yeah, had I grinded my blood glyph high enough, I would have been able to do the same. But like, That's so many ungodly hundreds of hours to, again, achieve practically nothing and have essentially zero reward. And as anyone pushing over 20 is going to attest, the lag, especially on Sorcerer, is almost unplayable. Every time you fight enemies, you have a coin flip of just watching a slideshow that you are then dead afterwards. It's really not great. But make no mistake, you could just kind of have some gear on and then cast Ball Lightning, and then the base damage of it was so ungodly buffed, and we still don't know if that was a mistake or not, that it would just kill everything but Abattoir of Zir really effortlessly easy. And long term, that's not good. It's fun for a season, but it's not fun for a lifetime of a game. If every new season we go into it on every class and absolutely just effortlessly stomp every bit of content without trying, thinking, or working for it, well, it is going to start being a little bit, what's the point, you know? Satisfaction comes from conquering challenge. The right kind of challenge, of course, and again, we have the opposite direction example of pushing abattoir tiers being sort of exhausting and frustrating if you're anyone other than a barbarian. So I think that it is kind of time where we go, fair enough, we accept that perhaps there needs to be some balancing again now that we've had our fun in Season 2. Because we don't want to go into Season 3, get to level 100 instantly, clear a tier 100 Nightmare Dungeon instantly, delete Uber Lilith in half a second instantly, kill Uber Duriel again in half a second instantly, and you might be listening to this going, yes I do, of course I want that, obviously I do, it's the easiest way to get gear, and I hear you, and it is compelling and fun to begin with, but I promise the health of a game cannot be sustained by having no meaningfully difficult content constructed in the correct way. So how do we solve that going forward? How do we have meaningful, rewarding challenges? Do we just accept that the base game content, everything that isn't seasonal, is just going to be easily done by every class? I don't think that's inherently a bad thing to have as a baseline. Let it be quite easy and just sort of meltingly fun to blow your way to level 100 and have a basically good build with basically all the gear that you need, but then we need that step further. So the idea that every season we can comfortably get towards max level, comfortably get our gear, and comfortably farm through nightmare dungeons, enjoying ourselves, destroying everything with our chosen build and move focus, and then we have a new seasonal pinnacle challenge that is a Abattoir of Zir-esque deal, but, you know, actually learnt from Abattoir of Zir and has something a little bit more to it, both on the reward and how you go about it. I would love to have some more single target focused challenges that aren't just the loot pinata bosses. I will fully admit that one of the most satisfying fun things I experienced in Season 2 was fighting the unique dropping bosses and Uber Duriel on an equivalent power level, where I had to learn their mechanics, dodge their attacks, or it would kill me, where I didn't have enough damage to just delete them, so I had to work at them and work out the right times to hit them. You know, actually have that proper one-on-one raid fight-esque experience. But the window in which you can do that is kind of really tiny. You're either unbelievably too weak or unbelievably too strong. You've got a very narrow time frame to have a satisfying challenge with those bosses. So I would love to have a one-on-one boss or boss rush-esque experience at endgame, where yes, doing a lot of damage is important, but not to the point where you just delete the boss and don't have to deal with any of its mechanics, where you still have to have that dance backwards and forwards. I mean, looking at Path of Exile recently that we have been investigating, the bosses there really do kind of let you do that, at least on your way through to endgame, and that's kind of that sweet point I'm talking about. I think that would be really nice to have. And then you can, of course, still have a dungeon mob clearing challenge, but one that doesn't just rely on numbers being insanely high, that doesn't rely on farming a thing so your numbers can be insanely high. Something that needs you to farm and have a peak build of your choice and be good at the game, but then you can complete it with raw ability. I know in an ARPG, of course, things are about the numbers, they are about the gear, they are about getting bigger numbers and better gear, but there is a right place for it. and I just think that it is fair enough to expect, or maybe even accept, that the game needs a few outliers to be brought back in line, and on that same token, buffs are needed too, certain skills that are just too weak on every class that need to be a little bit more viable going forwards. One advantage of us being so powerful as we are at the moment is you can use, air quotes, weaker or unviable skills and still complete all of the relevant endgame content, and that's really satisfying and enjoyable too. I just think that bottom line at the moment, the game, balance-wise, is all over the place in the worst ways. The hard stuff is too artificially hard, and everything else is too laughably easy. So what do we spend our time doing? What's the kind of point of it all? So I'm really hoping that in Season 3, well, the easy stuff is made a bit harder, the harder stuff is made a bit easier, and the skills that are leading the way on the classes that are leading the way are, unfortunately, just a little bit toned back, and then the weaker stuff is toned forward. I mean, it's not like I'm asking for anything crazy here, this shouldn't really be a revelatory talk. It's basically just, hey, maybe we, balance the game again? Okay, we've had our fun, we've learnt our lesson, Season 2, alright, you let us do what we want, that's fair enough, because 1.1 was a travesty, one of the worst patches I've ever experienced in my entire life gaming and creating content, and that's a long time. But, hey, okay, we do still want the game actually to be balanced for a fun, meaningful experience, so we can do that again in Season 3, maybe? That would be nice. Use the Abattoir experiment to tune endgame content. Use how easily we chewed through everything else to tune everything else. Cool! And I don't think that's too unreasonable to say, and I would love your guys' thoughts on that general sentiment. I think it is time for buffs again, but I also do think it's time for nerfs again, and I want to very much heavily add the caveat that all of it should be done in the right way, in a nuanced way, in a way that has learnt from the wrongs and the experiments of the last 2 seasons, and indeed the base game too. I think there's a lot of fun design space left to be explored in Diablo, and it has proven it can be an incredibly addicting, entertaining game despite its flaws, and I want to see it continue to grow like that, and not just be a kind of mindless stomp farm fest for 2 weeks before losing interest because there's nothing worth achieving that is worth achieving in any meaningful, satisfying way. Alrighty then, guys, I just kind of wanted to get that out there before we get too stuck into Season 3 and what it will end up being, and reveals, and planning, and builds, and all of that good stuff. We will, of course, be here throughout all of it with you, and I, once again, will do my utmost to make Sorceress shine, but I won't be lying that if I said, hey, it would be fun to shine in something that isn't a little crackling ball of blue energy, maybe let's see if we could have another new champion build, because I do think each season should have each class with a new, air quotes, best build. Even if it's just each skill getting its turn in the spotlight, that is just better than seeing, ooh, I wonder how Ball Lightning will do in Season 3, cool, I wonder how it will do in Season 4, okay, cool, and each time it's still just the best, just augmented with the seasonal mechanic. You could see that getting a little bit concerning a little bit quickly. In any case, like you've enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more, consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.